This is the Wednesday, September 21st, 2022 meeting of the Landmarks Commission. We will start with the roll call. Ron is absent. Alder Johnson is absent. Ian Griffiths present.
Yep.
Susan Lay present.
Here.
David is present. And Rebecca is present.
No, here.
Stephanie, do you know if Alder Johnson is going to join us?
I thought everybody would be here, so I'm
Okay.
going absent
Maybe
until
he's
proven
just
otherwise.
a little bit late. Moving on to item C on the agenda is the approval of tonight's agenda. Does anybody have any changes or corrections for the agenda? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. And the next item is item D, approval of the minutes from the August 17th, 2022 meeting of the Landmarks Commission. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or corrections regarding those minutes? Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. And we're on to item E, regular business. First item is item E1, certificate appropriateness 22-33, consideration with possible action on a design review for window, awning, and stucco work at 131 South Washington Street. Jason, you want to give us a briefing on this one?
131 South Washington Street is more commonly known as Al's Hamburger. It is shown in these two historic photos, one probably from the 60s at the top, and a sliver of it down below in the late 30s. The one at the top, just pointing out, it's a little white stucco building. You see a door, you see a window with an awning, a fabric awning, and then some sort of trim color or, chrome-like piece around the top where the coping would be. Down in the bottom photo, you see some tile coping along the front and a two-tone paint scheme, perhaps. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Next page, we're looking to replace the window, which itself is a replacement already, but perhaps about the same size as what had been there. Replacing the window with a sliding two-part window, adding a new awning, which has been added, and then potentially refacing the entire building with stucco. And on that point, I want to point out that the National Register nomination paperwork specifies the finish texture in that stucco as a fine worm finish. So I put some random verbiage to that effect here on the right. It's a thing, the worm finish, as opposed to some other type of finish. And of the worm finishes, this one's a fine, not a medium or coarse pattern. So, moving ahead, next slide, recommendation is to approve the stucco work, provided that they repeat the fine worm finish. Approve the awning, noting that it's already been installed, and approve the new window that has yet to be installed. Thank you.
Any discussion?
Are you here for this item? No. Okay. Sorry, we have someone in the public here.
I guess with the installation of an awning, does that require a building permit?
I don't know. I'd have to ask.
I'm just wondering why it wasn't flagged or how
I'm
the
guessing
work
not.
was done.
Usually things that aren't structural don't require the permit, but either way, with the approval of the COA, it would go the other direction. We could always copy the inspection officials, so if they did need one, it would come about then. From what I understand, the work was started and then I found out about it.
I mean, generally, if something's in the right of way, which it would be over the sidewalk, it would require approval. So I'm just curious as to how it didn't get flagged.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that has a hold harmless agreement from DPW. I don't know if that's been executed at this point, so I will follow up with them tomorrow.
It just makes our job a little harder if there is something that we don't approve of that gets done, that has then been done, and we're back to Historic Preservation Commission with no teeth. So just an observation.
I'd like you to cherish that observation as we press into the next COA and again next month too.
It's been a rough few weeks here at the office.
I questioned, I guess, Jason, it wasn't clear to me, photos that you had, I guess the question is simply, this building has looked like this for a long, long time. Is there any photos or any knowledge of what the property looked like originally? Or I guess to ask the question differently, is this building no longer historically accurate because of the renovations through the years?
Sure, I should have covered that earlier, sorry. To back up, the building is considered to be a contributing property in the downtown historic district. As to how exactly I got SHPO to agree with that, I can't say. Notably, the building suffered a pretty intense fire within the last 15 or so years. And so much of what we see today is effectively a reconstruction of the building that it used to be, and the interior, of course, is thoroughly gutted and redone.
Yeah.
So I recognize and acknowledge that the building is largely reconstructed, but by the letter of the law and National Register consideration, it's a contributing property. So we need to evaluate any proposed changes as though those changes might have an impact not just to the district, but to the building itself. The reality, of course, is that the building itself, I'm surprised, was contributing, but I did what I could so they could get tax credits if they wanted them, and that's the key towards that. So yes, the oldest picture that I was able to find, if I troubled Stephanie to open up that PowerPoint again, it's the picture where we see the building in the 1930s. The building is originally built in the 20s. So it's, I'm gonna bet anyway that picture at the bottom right more or less accurately reflects the as-built condition of the building. And here we see what was probably stucco with a two-tone paint job and tile coping visible at the top front facade. So if you look then at the 1960s photo, above that, you see basically what we see today, recognizing that the door is no longer in the doorway. They've recessed the door now. I think they've kept the same sign that hangs over the roof line, and I think that's been reinstalled, or a reproduction of it anyway. So there's not a whole lot of character-defining features to the building, except that it lacks a lot of character-defining features, and there's therefore a character-defining feature. So you've got a doorway, a window opening, and a sign, I suppose.
Do they really sell? Oh, you shut the picture off.
Oh, sorry.
Did they really sell Pontiacs and Mercedes next door?
Yeah.
Next
I
door.
saw that too. Yeah.
Next door is still there. It is non-contributing because the windows have been largely bricked up. So that building's in the district. It's non-contributing. It is originally an urban automobile showroom and retail center, multi-story. Mm-hmm. It's not the only one in the district. Is it Van Dries? Is that the name? There's another one. It's the Initiative 1 building, the taller one next to Initiative 1 is a car dealership as well.
Well, the reason I asked the question is, or I went back to those photos, is that it looks to me that, the facade doesn't look like the neighboring historic buildings, but it's clearly been like this for a lot longer than I've been alive. And I think that it probably culturally carries significance the way it looks now. So I guess my point is I don't see any issue with what's been brought forth to us with the proposed changes or renovations. And so I guess I would make a motion to approve.
I would second.
Any other discussion regarding the motion? Okay, hearing none, I call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item E2, Certificate of Appropriateness 22-35. Consideration with possible action on a design review for partial window replacement, door replacement, and concrete work at 410 Perlier Street.
If I may, 410 Perlier Street is a non-contributing house in the Astor National Register District. Here again, interesting backstory. The house was built around 1948, and it's unclear as to why it was designated as non-contributing. Per the National Register nomination paperwork of 1979 and 1980, the writers seemed to think that the building had just been built. But as I kind of alluded to earlier, by the letter of the law, so to speak, this is a non-contributing house. The COA application calls for the replacement of a number of windows, most of the concrete work, the driveway, the front porch, and adding some concrete in the back where a gravel area was. And there's mention of a door replacement, but there was no information provided on the replacement door. So here on the left, you see a building outline, and areas in blue is where concrete has, well, the driveway and the little walkway in the front, the upper part there, has been removed and replaced. Then the blue rectangle on the bottom side, the south side, is a new concrete pad where gravel had been. The little sketch on the right, you'll pardon my crudeness, in the black outline, I've loosely outlined the footprint of the house. And then in kind of a gold color, you'll see the areas in the sunroom and elsewhere where the windows have been replaced. And those windows, the original windows, have been replaced with modern windows that match the size and the general appearance. The notable change there is that instead of having like a three-dimensional grid or muntin work, the owner has opted just for the simulated muntins that's pressed between the two panes of glass. So, and again, I don't have any information on the replacement door, but skipping ahead to the recommendation, recognizing that this is a non-contributing house and recognizing that the proposed changes won't really have a negative impact on the district, my recommendation is that we approve the replacement windows and the concrete work done. I can't really speak to the replacement door, and going beyond that too, I know that the front porch has been altered. The columns have been removed. I don't have any application for replacement columns or indication of what those replacement columns might look like. So stay tuned for that, I think. Thank you.
Make a motion to open the floor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the floor is open. Pat, it looks like you're on the line. Can you give us some more information as to what the intentions are?
Hello, are you there?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not quite comfortable doing Zoom meetings, so I'll do the best I can. What question was it again?
Well, I think we're confused as to what your intentions are, like with the front porch, and are you putting the ironwork back, or?
No, I actually dropped off and provided the original blueprints for the house. They show 3 rounded pillars on the front post, on the front porch. The wrought iron ones were put in place of them by the homeowner, but I think because it's on the original plan, there's a definite level of appropriateness there. There's numerous things, and I actually just had this house open for the Astor Park tour this last weekend. But if anybody wants to come by and see what we're doing there, but we are going to make this house period correct as much as we financially can. And I will be putting Jason, I will be putting out the front pillars, and I'll supplying samples, but the wrought iron ones that were there were rusted off at the bottom. And I won't be putting those back on. The railings on the back porches, which I know you don't, those can be sandblasted and cleaned up and powder coated and redone. But the one on the front porch, were just too far gone. So I'm gonna replace them with what's actually on the plan, and I will submit that before I do that. Right.
Anybody have other questions for the applicant?
I guess I have the same question that I had on the first one. How did we get here?
Where do you get where?
To having work done that wasn't approved by the commission before the work was done.
Because I'm a general contractor and this is what I do for a living and it fit into my schedule and I knew I would be appropriate with the building inspector. And I didn't think this house was appropriate because it's built in 1948 and it is a non-contributing. So I did not believe that I had to get a permit from you at that time.
That may as be, but I don't buy it.
think he knew
Fair
better.
enough. Fair enough.
I have a question actually for Jason. You talked about how it's non-contributing, but correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds as if that was based on an error. And if so, would this be a contributing house then, if that error hadn't occurred?
So I can speak to that as my opinion. My opinion is that it was an error. My opinion is that the National Register nomination could have been revised to change this from non-contributing to contributing, but we'll never really know that. That's my opinion.
How would this error be addressed then?
So there's a method to revise National Register nomination packages. It's not entirely common. I mean, it's common enough when you have to do it, but there are other properties in Astor, for example, that could benefit from being changed from non-contributing to contributing, that change being required because of an error with the nomination. The one I'm thinking of in particular is the Lustron House. I forget which road is it on.
Perlier.
It's on Perlier as well.
Perlier.
So the nomination preparers back in 1979 said that it was basically an abomination built in the 1940s and reclad or something, not recognizing that it was a Lustron home. You know, they didn't know what it was. So that particular house, and the homeowner in particular, would benefit from having the nomination revised to reflect that, hey, the nomination was an error, this should have been contributing, we've identified it since as a highly intact Lustron home that's historically noteworthy in its own right, perhaps eligible for individual listing even. So there is a process to do that. In the case of Mr. Jury's house, it's a little less clear-cut because when the National Register nomination package was put together in 1979, the requirements for those nominations weren't as rigorous as what they've since become. So something missing from that nomination, which is now required, is a statement as to the period of significance for the property or the district. So the Astor neighborhood in general, they did not identify the period of significance, but probably would have been something like 1830 to 1950, judging solely based on other houses in the district that were identified as contributing. The authors thought that this particular house, Mr. Jury's house, was built, the day before they wrote the nomination, when in fact it was built in 1948. So there, yes, you potentially have error on the part of the people that wrote the nomination. They thought it was newer than it is. But, was the period of significance that I'm speculating appropriate? 1830 through 1950? Maybe, maybe not. I think they included contributing houses up to about 1950. So here it's on the cusp.
Well, if I may interject a little bit, one of the things I am doing with this house is I am restoring this house. It might be uncomfortable with a couple of window replacements, but most of the windows that are original to the house are being reworked and kept. The front windows and the front, the studio and the top floor actually open all the way out like awnings. Those are just absolutely beautiful. The hardware and everything, we're keeping those. I am doing the house in period correct 1948. It will be my showcase of homes in fall of 2023. We're putting old-fashioned linoleum in it with a cove floor, with the cove baseboard underneath it. All the trim work's original. All the trim work went back on the inside of the windows just like it was. I ask anybody, Jason, if you wanted to set up a tour to come see what we're doing. But this will, and maybe I would look at making it contributing once I'm sort of done with it, because I am doing it completely retro. So that's something that I'm not saying I wouldn't be interested in, but at this time, we are where we are and trying to get some work done and trying to fix this house up. It actually is, all in all, in pretty good shape. It was built right when it was built. So, in regards to the non-contributing, if that's something that you're inquiring about, I'm not necessarily opposed to that.
So Pat, what was the condition of the windows to the sunroom and why did you replace those and get rid of the original ones?
The same thing I'm going to be doing with the bowed window in the back. The bottom edges of them were completely rotted out. Not only just the bottom of the sashes, but the bottom of the frames. Like so filled. If anyone remembers what that house was like, you couldn't even see it. There were so many trees and pine trees. There was 8-inch round cedar trees growing out next to the foundation. It was let go. It was in terrible shape. So there's a lot of things like that. The window that I am waiting on to get product is a bowed window I ordered for Pella out the back. And that will be all wood construction. It'll be identical shape. But once again, on the plan, there is not a bowed window. It's a flat window. So the homeowner made decisions when they were building the house on certain things. So period correctness, I know when something gets installed, because I do a lot of historic work around time. I know when something gets installed at a certain date that everyone wants to hang on exactly that thing. But in that certain particular time and date, there might have been options that they chose, just like people do in the selection process of building a home now that is period correct, such as black windows. So every period has its time. This house in 1948 was drawn with 3 round pillars, not a wrought iron. But the homeowner made that decision because that was made available to him for the period. And I think that's something going forward I'd like to keep in mind, because that's what I do every time I do a historic structure. I don't always go exactly the thing it has to be, but it has to be in the right time, the right material, and have the look that we're looking for. In regards to my window, one of the windows, I spent $10,000 on windows. If I did true divided light windows, it would have cost me another $9,800 to do that. So though it's financial, why some of the people can't afford to do the windows that you folks would really like us to do. And I know that's frustrating because you want to make it historically correct. So those are things and subjects maybe talking further down the road. But we are going to try and do this building correct, and I will be showing it to the public. So just so you know where we're going, and I'll be living there. This is my residence. This isn't something I'm flipping or doing anything like this. This is where I will be living. So you sort of know the story now.
I mean, it's not, Pat, that we want these windows. We are mandated to follow the guidelines of the National Department of the Interior. That's part of our role here. It's your comment comes across like we want to maintain everything. We're required to, as part of our obligation to sit on the commission, we have to meet the requirements of the Department of the Interior. So I understand your question about, what was selected, what wasn't at the time, what was actually constructed, what's there currently, what is the period of significance. This one, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on which side of the fence you're sitting here, is challenging because of paperwork that was done back in '78 that maybe wasn't accurate. So, but, like you indicated, you've done a number of projects in the Astor neighborhood, and, I believe you should be aware that of the requirements and obligations of this commission to bring these properties forward prior to the work being done.
In most cases, yes, I understand that. And this one particularly because I thought it was a non-contributing the age of it. I didn't think it was under your jurisdiction. I just thought it was regular building inspection. And that's one thing that would help us too. Jason, we had that meeting with the building inspector. I think one department talking to the other department and things like that will help facilitate this a little bit sometimes too.
I mean, I thought that these were going to get red flagged when they came through for a building permit.
They did. I was the one who started this process. I saw the work being done online.
Yeah, Steph did start the process. That is true. And then Jason, we had a meeting with Jason there also.
But it wasn't initiated at the time the building permit was pulled?
The permit
No,
was
I ordered
pulled
the
after.
windows and then like a contractor, I had this hole in my schedule and I ran over there and popped the windows in because I had the time available to me. And I did not have the building permit before I started, figuring I'd catch up because I know everybody down there. So, I was remiss in my duties on filling a building permit in time. I will admit to that. So I went down and took care of that with Paul and had a meeting and we discussed what we're doing here. He double permitted me for that and, we're going forward. So that's where I'm at. I'm still waiting on DPW, the Department of Public Works, regarding my apron and the tree in my right-of-way that's planted in my driveway right-of-way, which is another challenge and two more departments I'm dealing with the city of Green Bay. So, yeah, that's where I sit right now. So I'm not sure where we go from here, but hopefully we can get past this. And that's about it. I don't have anything else to say at this time.
I guess I'll make a motion to close the floor if that's appropriate.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the floor is closed. Discussion amongst the committee members.
I believe I've said my piece in open discussion here. I'm challenged with some of the paperwork not being submitted at this point, notably the columns, the other doors, or the remaining door, I believe.
Jason, I'm sorry, Ian, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Jason, a clarification for the members of this commission. If a property is deemed as non-contributory, do we have authority to dictate the work or not?
Yes, you do. As a general policy, I suggest that work on non-contributing properties be evaluated with an eye towards any negative impact on the larger district.
So I guess where I'm going is I'm trying to look back on that terrible word of precedent
Right.
that this commission struggles with on a lot of these issues. And I think back to our very unanimous majority decisions we've had on a lot of projects in the past. And I guess I'm throwing out there that in the past, if it was a contributing property, we would have been very staunch in upholding the requirements of the National Park Service for what we've approved or denied.
Yes, you've generally approved new windows with
True divided lights.
Well, it would be the applied grids, yes. It would look like true divided lights, but it would truly just be two panes of glass with like a glue-on grid on both sides. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, I think your new windows are of that type?
That's correct. You're a 3-layer system: exterior grill, glass, interior mutton spacer, glass, and then the other grill on the other side, so 5 layers essentially.
So, and then I'm also gonna throw out there then that for properties that have been non-contributory, we've allowed modification, even though it didn't necessarily suit the needs of the district in terms of the historic nature. So as an example, I believe we've approved some changes to some of the downtown business facades where we've allowed some different windows and things because those buildings were no longer contributory. Is that correct? Does everybody agree with that?
Yep.
Um,
I mean, I think, the window opening size has remained the same oftentimes. The window within that can maybe is an operable window as opposed to non-operable or something of that nature. So changes, but not drastic changes.
So I guess where I'm going with this is because the property was listed as non-contributory, and I'll give the applicant the benefit of the doubt that he knew that and went ahead with the work under that assumption, that I'm willing to approve the work that's been done to this point because of that. But I would suggest that we get a second submittal next month that shows us what's going on with the columns and the doors. And so we're not just approving the stuff after the fact. That would be my hope on this. I don't know if anybody else has got any thoughts.
Paul, I'd concur with that with a strong expectation that next month we see a complete package.
I agree.
Mhm.
I feel
I
like
agree.
because it's non-contributing, we can, with proper notice and proper plans, we can go forward, but if it was contributing, it'd be different.
Do we know if those 3 columns, and I wasn't clear from Pat's description, if they're on the plan that are clustered on the porch were ever installed that way, or was it always a wrought iron substitution for the 3 round columns that was always there?
I don't know the answer to that. I know that wrought iron was present. I know the plans called for 3 columns, but as to whether or not the building was built strictly in accordance with the plans, I can't answer. And I also can't answer when those wrought iron columns might have been installed, if indeed they were retroactively put on there. They might have been day number 2 put on there or something, or
Sure.
1951. I don't know.
There's no photographic evidence that we have as part of the city for that property.
Not yet.
We can dig though.
What was the name of this home at the time? Do you know?
Yes, we know it is written clearly on the plans that are upstairs on the 6th floor that I don't
I
remember.
might have it in the notes.
What's in my packet doesn't have the name on it. That's why I was wondering.
And it's not one that I've typed out anywhere. If you're looking for it, Stephanie, it's just on the blueprints that were sitting on my desk. So.
Okay, then I have no clue.
It looks like by the hand lettering on it that may have come from our office. So I may have an entire set of the original plans if it was indeed done by our office.
So Mr. Jury's provided a set of electrical plans and a couple of elevations. On none of the drawings is the architectural firm labeled, which is interesting. So it identifies the name of the client, but there's no John Hancock for whoever did it.
Okay. If you could get me that name of the home, I'd like to double check my archive.
Certainly.
Well, I'm in agreement with your proposal that we should get the remaining piece of information for this property, and what's done is done. Right or wrong, it is what it is, and the fact that it's non-contributing gives me something. I'd concur and second your motion.
Stephanie's gonna ask me what my motion was.
Yes, I am. So it's just approval as is, and then with the expectation of a second COA application coming in.
That would be exactly be it. I would make a motion to approve as submitted, and I would assume that staff will work with the applicant to get a second submission for the remainder of the project work submitted to us next month, with some sort of strong encouragement from the applicant to make sure he figures out the permitting process in the city of Green Bay.
I would second that motion in its entirety.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We're on to item F, informational. First would be staff level COA applications.
I think we have two staff level COA applications to discuss, both of them involving fencing on, yeah, not the sport either, but fences. So here, 727 through 737 South Jackson, a brief photo at the top left showing an existing fence. Bottom middle, you see where the new fence is going to be replacing the existing fence. And off to the right is an overall view of where this property is. It's adjacent to the hospital corridor. So this was approved. It's basically wood fence for wood fence. The next one is also wood fence for wood fence, but this time at 746 South Quincy. The sketch at the top right, I'm going to surmise that the fence is basically, if we look at the aerial photo view on the left, basically follows the blue lot lines from along the side of the garage, which is labeled as house, and then around the side of the property, which has a little bit of a step in it halfway there. So this was also approved. Stephanie, I think those were the only two, yes?
Yep. That should be it.
Okay, city raise and repair orders and demolitions.
We had none this month.
Perfect. And staff update.
So at our last meeting, we had the request from Alder Galvin to look at our meeting schedule to see if we should be meeting more often. We had received and placed that on file, so no action is necessary for this, but I did collect some of the data from the past 3 years about the meetings that we've had. How many applications were at those meetings? Was it a special or regular? Was it canceled? So this is kind of the culmination of that. As you can see, there's really no pattern to when we receive the most applications. July can be hopping one year, and then the next year we only have one for July. And we've never been able to not accommodate somebody's request for a special meeting. So I think that this is plenty of evidence to show that there's no need to increase the amount of meetings that we have. However, if there is further discussion that anybody would like to have, we can have that here, and then I can report back to Alder Galvin.
No, the only thing I'd note is the ones that were identified as canceled had 0 applicants that month. So it's clear that there was no impact to the community from the canceled meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I think those numbers are compelling, and additional meetings are unnecessary. No point.
Okay. So if we're all still on the same page, then I'll just follow up with him on that communication then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's it. We sent in,
We have a memorandum of agreement
yes.
to do more stuff.
for the next phases of the survey. So coming up, sorry, we're just totally off in our own little world over here. Phases 5, 6, and a portion of 7 are going to be completed in the next phase update. We'll be contracting with Legacy Architecture again. They've done an amazing job so far, so we're sticking with them. Just sent out the contract and that MOA today for signatures by the end of the month. So they will be starting again. As usual, they'll have a beginning public meeting that'll happen at a regular meeting. I'm guessing probably the October meeting, and then another follow-up one sometime in the spring once the work is done to present all of their data. So it should be pretty much the same. I don't know off the top of my head what those survey areas are. Do you?
Yeah, they're on the east side. We're progressively moving further east with this one, and it's going to be north and south sides of the East River,
Oh, okay.
loosely speaking.
So that should be about it. So that'll be starting up shortly here. And this phase, the award amount was the 36,500. So a little bit less than the last one, but these areas aren't as big. 2, 3, and 4 was a huge area to do. So
Yeah, these are monumental undertakings.
yes, well, I'll be happy when they're done, and then we can start nominating things, which will be even more fun. So, but I think that's it for staff update. I don't have anything else.
Well, yeah, with that in mind, though, we need to, at some point, ask the commission if we should attempt to nominate something. We've identified a few districts and individual properties, quite a few actually. But
House on Perlier, we could have nominated.
Yes,
I'm sorry, are we still being recorded?
not yet.
Quite frankly, there are a number of buildings downtown that are, I think, threatened by redevelopment that, quite honestly, probably, I don't know that the problem is simply they're private buildings, and I don't think we can nominate a private building. Is that correct?
We can, right? Owner has to consent. No, not for an individual listing.
well, we can. So for an individual nomination, owner consent will effectively keep it off the National Register. But if we pursued it to its end, then the National Park Service would identify it officially as eligible. And from any federal undertaking perspective, they would treat it as though it was on the National Register, but it would not trigger the city to designate it locally and put it under the jurisdiction of the Landmarks Commission. So there's, I also have issue with doing an individual nomination at the city's expense because that would only benefit one property owner, whereas a district would benefit multiple property owners with the tax credit stuff. So
And I think that's 50% owner consent.
yeah,
For the
50% owner
nomination.
consent. So where we
Can
have
we-
some neighborhoods identified, those would make sense to pursue, I think. But
So do we currently have a historic district in downtown?
yes, 42 buildings on the east side, and then there are 2 separate districts on the west side, the Broadway Dousman and or did I botch that? Broadway Walnut and Broadway Dousman.
So if there was a building that was essentially facing demolition, we, in theory, this commission should be notified of that if it's in the district, or no?
We would be if it's in the district. They wouldn't be able to pull a demo permit without it,
Okay.
Presuming they pulled a permit.
presuming they pull a permit. And then if they don't, we get to fine them till high heaven until they rebuild the building. We have like all those clauses in our, I mean, not that that would ever happen in Green Bay, but
So
in
this
theory,
is sort
it's
of
there.
a sidebar discussion that I'm about to ask of Stephanie and maybe Jason, but it relates to what we witnessed tonight. And it really is not the purview of this commission at all, but it certainly affects us. Does the city of Green Bay need a simple, I'm a firm proponent of keeping things simple. And when it comes to the permitting process, I don't feel that it is simple. I mean, our applicant tonight discussed this commission. He discussed a building permit, which is a different authority. He discussed the Department of Public Works, which is another authority. And I think there might have been a fourth one there that I can't remember. And so, to do a simple renovation project on a residence, he's having to go through and get at least 3, call them permits. But my question is simply, and I do not accept that a contractor shouldn't be capable of navigating that process. However, for a residential property owner, a private citizen, how in the world would they ever understand if they wanted to do the work that was presented to us tonight? I don't think the result would have been any different. I think you'd had half of the work done and we'd be doing with the same thing.
Agree.
So I guess I'm just sort of, I don't know where to go with this, but it feels like most people, most citizens are smart enough to know that if they're going to do work on their home, they probably need to get a permit.
Yes.
But I guess my question is, if they make that call to City Hall, who are they talking to? And forgive me, I don't mean to be insulting here, but does everybody in City Hall even understand the process and the sequence of all these permits, so we don't get into a situation like we are tonight where the work has been started?
I'm going to take a bold guess and assume all 900 city employees don't know the permitting process. However, if you're going to call and say, I have a project I need to do I need a permit? They're going to send you to our inspection department on 6th floor. If you were the person who did things in the correct order, which we did not just see, you would have submitted for a building permit. You would have had to supply a site plan, and they would have reviewed that site plan to say, oh, it's historic, you need a COA. You're redoing your driveway, you have to get an apron sign off from DPW. So it gets housed in our inspection department, and they say, here's the 4 additional documents you need signed before this permit can be released. When you do it backwards, it's very confusing.
So do you think that process you just described, do you think that's on a piece of paper somewhere that?
It is. We have many packets available. Could it be easier, more condensed? Absolutely. Everything in government could be more streamlined. Everything could have a better pamphlet and a better whatever. We're running into a lot of issues where people just don't care. Most of our commissions are seeing this where people are doing this work and then they're going, I don't need a permit. I don't need to talk to you. I don't want to do this. Board of Appeals is feeling this. Our Plan Commission is feeling this. Our inspection department, they're running into people constantly submitting complaints saying, hey, my neighbor is doing this without a permit, but I had to get a permit. And then their contractor is going, oh, I didn't think that they needed one. Or I didn't want to get one. It's not worth it because I'm only getting fined $50 and the permit cost me $2,000, So it's been a struggle this summer in particular. So Jason wants to talk. I'm going to let him go.
Not really. I just wanted to point out that fence issue that resulted in a garage as well.
Yes. So generally speaking, our inspection division has been very on top of when they get applications. They review them, they see if they're in a floodplain or historic district, and they send them to me right away if they're historic. We just got a site plan for one of the fences that we approved. I see new garage on the site plan, and I went, I don't have a COA for that. So then I followed up with the applicant and said, hey, I see you have a proposed new garage here. You need to submit an application for this. So that's generally how this stuff works. We review the site plans on my floor and then funnel them out to who they need. So, but I don't know if it's working in reverse. If DPW is getting a driveway, if they have to go inspect an apron, they're not going to go, oh, I wonder if they pulled a COA. I don't know that they know about us. But
Okay.
That garage was already built though too, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, well, it's just, and I don't accept any of the excuses that we heard this evening, because again,
I agree.
I can't, I actually am kind of really, I gotta stop talking.
yeah.
But I will say, as somebody, I just submitted my residence before this committee last month or the previous month, and took me a little while to figure out the exact steps to make sure I got it right too.
Yep.
And quite honestly, I'm not sure that my contractor has pulled a permit, the building permit committee to do the work. So I'm still not quite done yet, but I have sympathy, I guess, for the regular property owner and not a lot of patience for the contractors that have come before this commission. It almost seems like we've had more problems from some of the licensed contractors then we have regular citizens.
I agree. That's kind of where we're seeing it from, is that either they're tired of having to pull the permits or they just disagree with how the process works, so they just do it. So we're going to have to figure out a way around that. I mean, we do annual letters every spring saying, hey, just a reminder, you have a historic house. When we get new historic property list, I send a letter that reminds them, hey, you just bought a new historic house. Here's the process, in hopes that that would diminish it. But if a contractor's going to do it anyway, you know, so there are some issues on our department. But yes, if there are, you know, if you want to review some of our documents and see how it could be more efficient, I mean, I feel like even looking at our website, I know that it does not read efficiently. It's very word heavy. So you have to read for 4 paragraphs to even see what you would do if you had a historic property if you're applying for a permit. So there are certainly some updates that could be made.
I mean, maybe it's another education session or several to the contractor community, especially on the residential contractor scale, because those jobs turn probably much quicker than a commercial property. And there's, you know, there are different requirements for commercial than there are residential in terms of life safety and other aspects of what we do for a day job. So it's important that we've done our due diligence to make sure that people are educated. But once that's done, the ball is in their court.
If I could just throw something in here, you guys picked up on something that's outside of my world, so I didn't catch this, was that the way you admonished him for failing to get the permits. I think in and of itself, that does serve a purpose to snap the leash, so to speak. I remember that happened very early on to one person downtown, and we've seen him repeatedly for several pretty minor things. And that's good, because if the word gets out there that we will take our responsibility serious, anywhere from admonishment to perhaps finding them, that also goes toward educating. And for those of you that provided that admonishment tonight, I just want to say well done, because I didn't catch that.
I mean, my 2 cents is, when this was the Historic Preservation Commission, it had no teeth. I sat on it for 10 years and banged my head against the wall every month. And I said, eventually, enough, I'm done. I can't do this. I'm not giving my time to just have either the homeowner or the contractor go off and do whatever they want anyway. When Landmarks Commission came back, they asked me to come back. On the one condition that it had authority to enact these things. And if we become a commission that isn't able to do that, then this will be my last meeting.
Well, and my disappointment in tonight is simply that the applicant certainly knows better. But the disappointment is the applicant does really good work.
Yep.
And clearly understands the value of historic preservation and restoration in his work. And so that's the disappointment, that we're sitting here at this moment with that applicant having that discussion, because again, he sees the value of that.
Yep.
And hopefully he would see the value in this commission. And I'm just going to give the benefit of the doubt that I had heard prior to tonight's meeting that was going to be a personal property and not just a business situation. And I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt that, you know, he just wasn't thinking the whole thing through, and so on and so forth. But I just found it incredibly disappointing, and yet at the end of the day, he is going to do a nice job on the residents, and it will look good when it's finished. But I do worry about the fact that, you know, we're put in a position of having to accept work that's done before it's come before us. That's the hardest part.
Yep.
Future precedents.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just as a reminder, you are not forced to accept it. If he would have brought forward something that you all thought was not in keeping with the district, you could have asked, like, ordered him to remove
Yep.
it. So, I
Yep.
mean, I know that it's a harder thing to say after the fact, but it's absolutely within your purview to do that.
Well, and I don't feel the work that he's done was necessarily detrimental to the property.
certainly,
That's why I
yeah.
made the motion I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Certainly, if those windows were changed to triangle shape or round or something that was obviously very different, that's a different story. I mean, but generally, the openings were of the same or similar size, and the grill pattern appeared to be of a same or similar size. Could it have been better yet? Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to go, is just from good to being great in terms of these renovations.
I don't think we need to be concerned about setting a precedent here because we did establish a precedent for calling out an applicant for failing to the rule of law. And you guys gave him a tongue lashing. I mean, it woke me up when I realized what was going on. So you definitely made the point that establishes a precedent. And if we see that again, I'm going to be in front of you for substantial fines. I've got no problem pulling that pin. But this warning, I think, serves as a great precedent. And we've done it before.
Yep.
Okay. I think we're at the end of the agenda. The next meeting is October 19th, Wednesday. Are there any other items that anybody needs to bring up tonight?
I want to apologize for my taking this over an hour. Ian, thank you for trying to hurry me up along as you have in the past. you're
No, this is good.
you're trying. I know you're kidding.
I guess you guys got to get your chairperson back to run these meetings. They'll be
I
done.
guess.
Nothing else. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second
Second.
that.
Aye.
Aye.
I
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.